Welcome to the BMS podcast, where faith meets life. Religion, spirituality, society, and culture. Real talk, deeper meaning. Let's dive in.
Today, we're tackling something really powerful, divine mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And not just as some, lofty theological idea, but as a practical force, something that can really profoundly impact our families and marriages.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been exploring divine mercy, a theological and practical reflection on family and married life. And it's quite something.
Right. So our mission today really is to dig into that source and see how this concept, divine mercy, can genuinely bring more love, more forgiveness, and, unity into our homes. Day-to-day life stuff.
It's actually pretty remarkable how this idea, which maybe seems a bit abstract at first glance,
See, it can feel that way.
it really gives us a tangible way, a sort of framework for navigating the inevitable ups and downs of family life, of marriage.
Oh, fundamentally.
Fundamentally, it's about trying to grasp the sheer scale, the unconditional nature of God's love and forgiveness, something that's just offered, regardless of our mistakes or imperfections.
Okay, let's get into the heart of it then. The source material really emphasizes that divine mercy is God's love made real, specifically through Jesus Christ.
Right, through his life, his coming into the world.
The incarnation, yeah. And then his suffering, death, and resurrection. It's God actively, reaching out.
Exactly, that reaching out is crucial.
So when we talk about the incarnation, God becoming human in Jesus, how does understanding that specific act, that sort of reaching down, change how we view mercy in our own lives?
Well, the incarnation is absolutely key. It shows God's willingness to meet us exactly where we are, in our messiness, in our humanity.
Okay.
And there's that powerful quote from St. Faustina Kowalska's diary that the text brings up.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
The greater the sinner, the greater the right they have to my mercy. It just hits hard, doesn't it?
It really does, because it flips the script.
Totally. It underscores that this isn't about earning forgiveness. It's not about us cleaning up our act first. It's about God's initiative. His proactive love and forgiveness even, or maybe especially, when we feel least deserving.
That is a real paradigm shift, especially when in our human relationships, we often feel like we have to earn back trust or make amends before forgiveness is even on the table.
Right. It's a different model.
The deep dive also mentions the Trinitarian aspect, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, connected to divine mercy. Can you maybe break that down a bit? Why is that relevant to arguing over chores or feeling disconnected from your spouse?
Yeah, okay, good question. So connecting it to the big picture, the text explains it like this. The Father's love is the source, the initiator of this mercy.
The starting point.
Exactly. The Son, Jesus, through his sacrifice, he embodies it fully, makes it visible, tangible. And the Holy Spirit, well, the Spirit is the force that sustains this mercy, that keeps it alive within us and in the world.
So how does that translate to, say, a family argument?
Well, think about it. The Father's initiating love might prompt us to approach the conflict with care first, not anger.
Instead of just reacting.
Right. The Son's sacrifice might remind us that maybe we need to yield sometimes, to practice a bit of self-giving, maybe compromise. And the Spirit's sustaining grace, that points to the need for ongoing effort. Forgiveness isn't always a one-and-done thing, right?
Definitely not.
It's about the endurance, the commitment to the relationship beyond just the immediate conflict. It helps keep that merciful approach alive over the long haul.
Okay, that makes sense. So shifting this to family life more broadly, the source calls the family the domestic church.
Yes, the primary place.
The primary place where we first experience and crucially practice this mercy. So amid the everyday chaos, homework, meals, disagreements, what does practicing mercy actually look like?
Well, what really stands out from the text is the need for very practical expressions, things like patience when, tempers are flaring.
Which happens.
Oh, absolutely. Forgiveness for those daily little offenses, the small hurts, the misunderstandings, and just a consistent, self-giving love.
Like choosing to help even when you're tired.
Exactly. Think about those moments, the forgotten chore, the sharp word, the unintentional slight. Divine mercy calls us to respond with understanding first, rather than jumping to judgment, to prioritize making things right over, holding on to resentment.
The analogy used in the text, the prodigal son from Luke's gospel, is just so powerful there.
Oh, it's perfect.
That image of the father just running out, the unrestrained welcome, that overwhelming mercy. How can we even begin to mirror that kind of love as parents? It seems almost unattainable sometimes.
It's a high bar, for sure. But that story really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? It depicts a love that doesn't keep score.
No tally of mistakes.
Right. A love that celebrates reconciliation, healing, no matter what happened before. So for us as parents, it's a challenge to look beyond our kids' missteps, their failures, and see their inherent worth. To offer a love that provides, yes, boundaries and guidance, but also boundless forgiveness.
And it's not just a one-way street from parent to child, is it? The text also points out how children themselves are part of this cycle. They learn to ask for forgiveness and also to offer it.
Absolutely. That's so important. Kids are incredibly perceptive.
They really are.
When they see forgiveness modeled, when they experience it themselves, both receiving it and giving it, maybe to a sibling or even back to a parent, they start to grasp its power.
They learn it's possible to fix things.
Exactly. They learn that mistakes don't have to mean the end of a connection, that seeking reconciliation, saying sorry, takes courage, but it works. And that extending forgiveness brings healing. It restores harmony. It creates this positive feedback loop in the family.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. The idea that actively practicing mercy isn't just nice. It's actually the key to resolving conflict and building real unity, real peace. It sounds almost too simple.
It does, but it's profoundly powerful. Because think about it. When we approach a conflict with a genuinely merciful heart, our whole focus shifts.
How so?
Instead of wanting to assign blame, find the culprit.
Which is often the first instinct.
Totally. Instead of that, we seek to understand the other person's perspective. Instead of demanding, punishment or retribution, we aim for restoration, for fixing the relationship.
That requires vulnerability, though.
It does, but it creates a safer space for communication, for honesty. It fosters empathy, and that makes it possible to navigate disagreements in a way that actually strengthens the family bond rather than tearing it down.
The source also brings up family prayers, specifically mentioning the Chaplet of Divine Mercy as a tool, a way to invite God's grace in and deepen those family bonds, that shared faith. How does that specific practice help?
Well, praying together, any kind of shared prayer, creates a deliberate space for inviting God into the family's life.
Don't just act.
Yes. And the chaplet itself, it focuses so directly on Christ's sacrifice and asks for mercy, not just for us, but for the whole world. That naturally broadens our perspective, fosters compassion beyond our own little circle. It becomes a shared ritual, a touchstone that reinforces common values and strengthens that sense of unity of relying on God together.
Okay, let's zoom in now on marriage specifically. The deep dive talks about spouses being instruments of mercy for each other, reflecting Christ's selfless love in that really intimate relationship. It sounds beautiful.
It is beautiful.
But also potentially really challenging day to day.
Oh, absolutely. It is a high calling.
Yeah.
And it demands a conscious, ongoing commitment. Because marriage, just by its nature, its closeness, will inevitably bring moments of hurt, frustration, disappointment.
That's unavoidable.
Right. So living out divine mercy there means actively choosing to forgive, even when it feels incredibly hard, maybe even unfair. It means trying consistently to view your spouse through a lens of love and understanding, rather than just focusing on their flaws or the latest annoyance.
There's that quote from Pope Francis in Amoris Laetitia the source uses. Mercy does not merely imply being a good person, nor is it a vague compassion. Rather, it is the definitive act by which God comes to meet us. That really struck me. It elevates mercy beyond just niceness.
Exactly. It's not passive. It's not just feeling sorry for someone. It's an active reaching out, a deliberate choice to extend love, to extend forgiveness. In marriage, this definitive act happens in those small daily choices to be patient when you're stressed, to really listen to your spouse's concerns, even if you disagree, maybe offering forgiveness even before it's asked for.
Wow. Okay. And the source explains that the sacrament of matrimony itself gives a specific grace for this, that it empowers couples to live this way with a merciful heart, to see each other through love, not just faults.
Yes, that's the theological understanding. In this view, a sacrament is a visible sign instituted by Christ that gives grace, God's divine help.
Okay.
So the idea is that matrimony provides couples with God's specific help, that extra strength, that grace, to live out their vows in a way that mirrors Christ's faithful, forgiving love for the church. It's like having a divine partner in their commitment to each other.
So if a couple really leans into this, embraces this perspective of divine mercy, how does that change the marriage fundamentally? The text says it transforms it into a living witness of God's covenantal love.
It shifts the very foundation, really. Instead of being built only on, human feelings which can fluctuate wildly,
I certainly can.
it becomes rooted in this firm commitment to unconditional love and forgiveness, modeled on God's own steadfast love for us. That creates a deep resilience, a strength that allows the marriage to weather storms, the inevitable tough times, and yes, become this powerful example, this witness of lasting, merciful love to others.
Okay, so we've explored the theology, the why, and how it applies in families and marriages. Let's get really practical now. The deep dive outlines 5 actionable steps. First up, frequent reception of the sacraments, Eucharist, and reconciliation. Why start there?
Because these sacraments are seen as direct encounters with God's mercy. The Eucharist nourishes us with Christ's own self-giving love, fueling our ability to love others similarly.
Like spiritual food.
Exactly. And reconciliation, confession, offers us God's forgiveness and healing for our own failings. Experiencing that forgiveness firsthand frees us up, makes us more able, hopefully more willing, to extend that same mercy to others in our lives. Regular participation keeps us connected to the source, you could say.
Makes sense. Okay, practical step 2, family prayer and devotion, like praying the chaplet together. We touched on this, but maybe elaborate on the specific benefits of making it a regular thing.
Right. Well, praying together regularly, it establishes a kind of shared spiritual rhythm for the family.
A routine.
A meaningful routine, yes. And the chaplet, specifically, with its focus on Christ's suffering and the plea for mercy for everyone, it naturally cultivates empathy, compassion. It reminds everyone to rely on God's grace, especially when navigating family challenges. It's a unifying act that reinforces shared values and strengthens those emotional and spiritual ties.
Okay. Step 3 is embracing forgiveness as a way of life. Now this can be incredibly hard, especially when the hurt is deep. What are some concrete ways the source suggests we can cultivate this habit?
It's definitely tough. The text really highlights a few things here. Open and honest communication is key.
Talking about it.
Yes, even when it's uncomfortable. Also, a genuine sense of humility, being willing to admit when we're wrong, not just pointing fingers.
Yeah.
And crucially, making a conscious decision to prioritize the health of the relationship over the need to be right or to win the argument.
Letting go of the grudge.
Essentially, yes. Creating a safe space to talk about hurts. Actively working to release resentment. And consistently choosing connection over dwelling on past grievances. It's an ongoing practice, not a switch you flip.
Right. Step 4, acts of service, both within the family and also out in the wider community. How do these actions embody mercy?
Well, because mercy isn't just an internal feeling or attitude, right? It's meant to be expressed outwardly in action.
Got it.
So when we willingly serve each other within the family, it could be a small kindness. Helping with a chore without being asked, taking on a task someone else dislikes. We're making Christ's selfless love tangible, concrete.
And then taking it outside the home.
Extending that service to the broader community, to neighbors, to those in need. That puts our faith into action. It becomes a visible sign of God's love operating through us, reaching out to others. It's mercy in motion.
Okay, and the 5th and final step mentioned is cultivating gratitude. Specifically, gratitude for the mercy we receive from God. How does focusing on our reception of mercy help us be more merciful?
Gratitude is powerful.
Yeah.
It genuinely shifts our perspective. When we take time to recognize and truly appreciate the immense mercy we've already been shown by God, maybe by others too, it softens our hearts.
Makes sense.
It naturally makes us more inclined, more willing to extend that same kind of grace and understanding to others. It fosters a more positive, loving atmosphere within the family, constantly reminding us, hey, I've been forgiven much. Maybe I can forgive this too. It reinforces that cycle of love and grace.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into divine mercy, looking at its implications for family, for marriage, it's just so clear, isn't it? This isn't just some abstract concept up in the clouds.
Not at all.
It's a real practical pathway, something that can actually transform our most important relationships.
Absolutely. The source material illustrates that beautifully. When we intentionally try to embrace divine mercy, try to live it out, it can genuinely transform our homes, make them ideally sanctuaries of love, forgiveness, and real spiritual growth. It's about weaving these principles into the fabric of everyday life.
Yeah. And ultimately, by living this out within our families, our marriages, we're not just strengthening those vital bonds for ourselves.
Right. There's more to it.
We also become, as the source concludes, living witnesses. Powerful witnesses to God's boundless mercy in the world around us.
Precisely. It creates that ripple effect we talked about. It demonstrates that a life built on forgiveness, compassion, and that kind of steadfast love.
Yeah.
It's not just some nice idea, it can be a transformative reality.
So here's a final thought for you listening. Consider maybe taking just one of these practical steps we talked about. Maybe being more intentional about offering forgiveness this week, or perhaps trying to introduce just a brief moment of family prayer, even something simple.
Just one small change.
Yeah. And think about how that one small shift could ripple outwards. Not just inside your own home, but maybe into your wider circle, friends, colleagues, community. What might actually change if we all leaned more fully into this lifestyle, this practice of both extending and receiving this profound mercy? It's a powerful invitation, really, to live a life truly shaped by love and forgiveness.
Thank you for tuning in to the BMS podcast, where faith meets life. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Catch more of our content on YouTube and Facebook. Just search for BMS Podcast. Stay curious, stay grounded, and see you in the next one.